And welcome to the Coors Event Center. I am Matt Smith from Mile High Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. Well, the Colorado Buffaloes advance to 6-0 on the young season as they take down the Air Force Falcons 81-69. Another win for the Buffaloes, who remain undefeated coming off that big Paradise Jam win last week. Just 2 games in 1 week span for the Buffs as they were undergoing Thanksgiving break, had a few days off here, and a bit of some signs of that certainly showed early on in this one. Bit sluggish, a bit slow to start. McKinley Wright after the game saying that this team came out flat, but a very impressive performance in the second half to really flip the script and answer the bell once again, and that's pretty much all they have done here so far in 2017-2018 in the early goings. In that first half, there was a real lack of ball movement, and that really contributed to letting Air Force have opportunities to make this a close game. It helped that they were shooting 53% from the three-point line, 4 assists and 9 turnovers for the Buffs in that first half of play. Like I said, lack of player movement, lack of ball movement. I thought the initiative and the ambition wasn't where it should have been, but after a week off, Thanksgiving break, a team with 8 freshmen, that's understandable, certainly, but really good to see them bounce back the way they did in that second half. In that first 20 minutes, Tad after the game saying that he really was not pleased with their defense at that three-point line, obviously allowing Air Force to shoot 53% from downtown in the first 20 minutes. Tad saying that he said that he felt maybe 1 of 8 of their made threes in the first half was actually properly contested. But an area that I actually disagreed a little bit with Tad is I felt that it was another good test to pass in the first half. The Buffs played, in my opinion, 28, 29 seconds of pretty good defense on some of those possessions and were beat late. Now, that's a scenario that can be somewhat deflating to a team when you're playing well defensively, but end up getting beat late in the shot clock because of a missed rotation or just, a guy not getting his hand up. Air Force coming into this game through 4 games so far in their early season, shooting just 33% from beyond the arc. Tad said after the game that running them off the three-point line and taking that away was a big factor and a big key in their game plan. Like I said, I thought it was a good first half of character-building basketball for Colorado. There were some bad calls in that first half, some offensive fouls that certainly weren't. Tad after the game saying that traveling this season and illegal screens are certainly in emphasis from the officials across the NCAA, and the Buffs had 2 illegal screens called on them tonight. Early goings, teams still learning how to adjust. A very good test of a little adversity in the early non-conference schedule. Dom Collier picked up 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes of this game and would sit the rest of the first half. Certainly a concern when your senior guard is 4 years into it, still having trouble staying on the floor. That's been Dom's bugaboo, really, for the better part of his career. There were 9 points the Buffs allowed off of 9 first-half turnovers. Like we said, just 4 assists, 9 turnovers in the first half for the Buffs. If not for that, this game really isn't that close. Air Force only led by 1 at halftime, 34-33. Colorado did a very good job despite shooting a poor percentage from the three-point line, just 27% on 3 of 11 from downtown in the first half. The Buffaloes did a very good job getting to the glass. They out-rebound Air Force in a big way tonight, and in the first half, 8 offensive rebounds led to 10 second-chance points and 16 points in the paint. George King with a very, very solid first half, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 of those were offensive, and was really the main catalyst for this Buffaloes offensive attack. I alluded to it a little earlier. Dom Collier set the tone in that second half. 8 points in the first 4:30 in that second half, and more importantly, and this is where the ball game was won, and this was the most impressive part of this matchup tonight. Colorado, like I said, 4 assists, 9 turnovers in the first half. I'm saying it again to stress a point here. They had 13 assists on 15 made baskets in the second 20 minutes of play. At halftime, Tad said that he talked to this team and he said, listen, we're down by 1 and we have 5 more turnovers than we do assists, and Air Force just shot 53% from the three-point line. He felt like if they could run them off the three-point line and certainly take better care of the basketball, they'd have a very good chance to do some good things in the second half. They really came out like gangbusters. Like I said, they had 4 assists on their first 4 shots. That tied the first half in and of itself before the first media timeout of that second half, from the 16:38 mark to the 10:26 mark in the final 20 minutes. A 6-12 stretch of time. They were 9 of 9 from the field and stretched a 42-40 lead to 63-56. They went on a 23-16 run, and the Buffaloes altogether end up outscoring Air Force 45-38 in that second half and put together a very good 20 minutes of basketball. And Tad said that, you know, I think after the game somebody mentioned to him great adjustments at halftime. He said, we didn't really adjust, we just executed better and the way that we are supposed to. And it's a good thing to see this team continually, night in and night out, respond in big ways for being so young. And yes, they haven't played a Power 5 team yet, so you do have to calibrate slightly. But at the same time, the signs are extremely encouraging, and it's not just for this year, it's for the next 4 years, the next era really of Colorado basketball. There's good building blocks so far. We'll talk about the good from an individual standpoint. George King, 25 points, career high, 15 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 9 of 13 from the field tonight, 5 of 6 from behind the three-point line. And George in the last 2 games has taken his game to another level. I mean, you want to talk about a leadership role, and you want to talk about a guy who's developing maybe a little bit of that killer mentality that we've seen here from a select few individuals in Tad Boyle's tenure. King in the last 2 games, 50 points, which is a career high for a 2-game stretch. He's extremely efficient. 18 of 26, 69% from the field, 8 of 12 from behind the three-point line, 66% from downtown, and 23 rebounds, including 12 offensive rebounds. That's something that we talked about all preseason long, that Tad was really trying to challenge George to be the best rebounder on the floor on a nightly basis. And George in the last 2 games has asserted himself in a way that you would expect of a guy who entered the NBA draft, received some feedback that he needed to continue to work on his game, then come back to college. Well, he should have that confidence boost, and we've really seen it now in the last 2 games. And if George can do that type of thing on a consistent basis, really control what he can control, make the simple plays, and let the game come to him. And that was something that Tad alluded to after the game. He was really, really pleased with the efficiency from George King tonight. He had 25 points on 13 shots. He was also pleased with the efficiency of freshman point guard McKinley Wright, who once again was very, very good. That is now 6 straight games in double figures. It is the most in double figures to begin a career at Colorado since Alec Burks in 2009-2010 scored in double digits his first 20 games of his career. Really bright things from McKinley in these early stages. And tonight he seemed a little sluggish. Certainly, I thought maybe he was injured, maybe he was sick, but after the game saying that he definitely felt like he needed to get back on that underwater treadmill. He said he felt like he was a little out of shape in this one. And I think on the whole, the conditioning level of the entire team, I felt like, was a little lower than it should have been. Obviously, maybe Thanksgiving week had a lot to do with that. Kin, I thought, really good. 19 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 1 from the three-point line, and 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Huge for McKinley Wright. If he can be able to knock down those shots at the foul line, I mean, listen, they're free for a reason. He's made his last 12 free throws now and hasn't missed one in the last 2 games. On a negative standpoint, in the individual level, we'll talk about this real quick. Dale Brown tonight, 1 of 8 from the field. He had been a big spark plug as he has really started to develop into the Buffs 6-man in 2017 in the early goings. But Dale Brown tonight doing things without scoring the basketball that I thought really helped this team win the game tonight. He had 4 assists, just 1 turnover. When you go 1 of 8 from the field and be unselfish, create plays for your teammates, it's a big stride in maturity as a player when your offense doesn't affect the rest of your game. I thought he played well defensively tonight as well. Naaman Wright, I thought, struggled shooting the ball a little bit. 2 of 8 from the field. Naaman is one of 3 guys that averages in double figures for this team. Did not get into double digits tonight for the Buffaloes, but I thought he did some good things. He had a big block in that first half, and like I said, if you can do things without scoring the basketball that help your team win, for this team specifically this year with the youth, those are great building blocks and great lessons that you can teach a group of young kids who is the foundation of your program moving forward for, at the minimum, the next 4 years. Like I said, I think overall the biggest thing for me is that Colorado has passed every test that they've had so far. Yes, they haven't played a Power 5 team. I understand that. And the teams that they have played have, they should beat. But with a group of 8 freshmen, this is a team that needed to prove that they could do that, and they have in the early goings, and they've responded, and they keep battling back. And this is not the team that we saw last year or even the year before that I think at times would let their offense dictate what they did on the floor. This is a team that ranks near the top in every major statistical defensive category in the Pac-12 right now. So good signs early on. We'll end with the 2 guys who were spectacular tonight and who have been the leaders of this team really through the early going. Through 6 games, George King is averaging 16 points a game, shooting 60% from the field, 45% from 3, 70% from the free throw line, averaging a career high 8.8 rebounds per game. Now, tonight was a very interesting note for George King. It was just the 14th time in his 101 games played that he had more assists than turnovers. He was a plus 36 tonight, and for George, that was what Tad was talking about, was the efficiency. If George can keep that, can start to level out that assist to turnover ratio that has really been struggling for the last few years, he'll make the simple play. He'll start to do more things that are going to translate into wins for Colorado basketball, and tonight he did that. Just the 14th time in 101 games played, he had more assists than turnovers in a game. Interesting. McKinley Wright. We just talked about him a little bit, but let's kind of give more of a broad stroke summary of what he's done. He's averaging currently through 6 games 15.7 points a game, shooting 54% from the field, 40% from the three-point line, 76% from the free throw line. He's averaging 4.3 rebounds, 4.1 assists. 15.7, 4.3, and 4.1 in your first 6 games. That's pretty good. Oh, by the way, he's also averaging just over a steal and 1 block per game. He's had more than 19 in 3 of his first 6 collegiate games. And like I said, he has the most double-digit efforts to begin a career at Colorado since Burks did in 09 and 2010. He's made his last 12 free throws. That's certainly a good sign. I thought that was one thing that I'd like to see Kin from the beginning of this summer improve upon, was his consistency at the free throw line, and it's good to see that he's beginning to do that. Next up for the Buffaloes, they have a break now until Saturday, where they will take on the CSU Rams in Fort Collins. We'll get into this one real quick. Rams are 3-3 on the season, but they are 3-0 at home. Now, CSU has certainly played a more competitive schedule than Colorado has to this point. CSU has wins over Sac State, Winthrop, and Northwestern State. However, they have losses to Tulane, and that was in Jamaica. They got mopped off the floor, 83-50. They lost to Florida State as well, and to New Mexico State on the road, something the Buffaloes have not done yet in 2017-18, go on the road. CSU a little bit more tested. Now, the Rams have 1 game before they play the Buffaloes this week, and that's on Tuesday. It is at Missouri State. It is the Mountain West Missouri Valley Challenge. I think it's just an ESPN-sponsored event. It's a big one for them because their next 3 games are not going to be easy wins. They have Colorado at home, then they go on the road to Arkansas, then on the road to Eugene and play 3 straight Power 5 teams in a huge portion of their non-conference schedule. So starting off with a big win at home against their in-state rival would certainly be a boost in the right direction for the Rams. And these Buffs haven't gone on the road yet. They have not done that yet. And when you have a group of 8 freshmen, you certainly have to be concerned about how a group of kids is going to react to that type of environment. Looking at the Rams briefly, numbers I do like. They average 15.2 turnovers per game. They really struggle taking care of the basketball, and Colorado demonstrated some more good work and practice tonight in that 1-2-2 zone, slowing down Air Force. I would expect to see a good amount of that against Prentice Nixon, J.D. Page. CSU only shoots 30% from the three-point line as well, but of course, as all Larry Eustace teams do, they rebound the ball very well. They have a plus, I think, 5.9 rebounding margin on the season per game. So it sets up to be the biggest challenge yet, certainly for Colorado. I will be there, of course, 11 a.m. Saturday, the tip-off. You're going to have to get up early, maybe a couple extra cups of coffee, but make it up to FOCO because it should be a fun one. I will be tag team covering that game with Rich Kurtzman. Of course, this is Mile High Sports. I'm Matt Smith. This is the Coors Event Center. Thank you as always for tuning in, and follow along on Twitter at @RealMattSmith. That's Matt with 1 T, and at Mile High Sports for all your exclusive Buffs coverage. Until next time, I'll see you in Fort Collins.